Welcome to the Creative Liberty Podcast. I'm your host, Major Chisholm. And today in the studio with me, I have a filmmaker, Mr. Todd Smith. Mr. Smith, welcome. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. I'm well.
Yeah. Good to
Thanks
see
for
you.
the opportunity.
Yeah, you're welcome. Let's go full screen here. So, you're a filmmaker.
Yes, sir.
I would love to hear your story. First question. Todd and I were talking before this. I have a whole list of questions here for him. So your filmmaking story, how did you end up in filmmaking? Yeah, let's just go with the filmmaking proper. Filmmaking right now.
Okay. Well, my dream of being Jimmy Buffett's sound guy didn't work out. So I kind of shifted, and back at I guess maybe the beginning of the century, if you will, started working in TV in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, parlayed that into a few years of working live events and live production, behind the camera, calling the shots on a few shows. And once we landed here in Denver, not a whole lot of live events other than, what's passing through. There are no tours based here. So I ended up enrolling in school, University of Colorado, Denver, in their filmmaking program. I wanted to take my background that I had in live events and corporate and television and parlay that into something that I perceived as more. Being on the road has a finite lifespan, if you will.
Yes. And
I wanted to pursue something that I could basically finish out the rest of my working years with.
Right.
And so I wanted to learn new skills. I wanted to meet new people and basically finish out my career in something that I felt would be a little bit more fulfilling and that I could express my creativity with as well.
Okay.
And find the most expensive way to network. So that's why I enrolled in college.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for our listeners, Todd and I actually met at he reminded me of a 48-hour film festival, right? With our friend Joel Wilson.
Joel T.
Joel T. He has the tattoo that says smile. Yeah, I think
smile. Because he was
the camera operator, so it's at smile.
Yeah, exactly right.
All right. So from Nashville to Denver to film school. Let's dive into some of like who your influencers are, like who over the years has influenced you in your. Now, correct me. You're a director, a writer, producer. What avenue of I mean, I know you said you've done a lot of shows and stuff, but filmmaker, what would I classify? If I'm going to say, hey, tell me your favorite influencer, would that be a director, writer?
Right now, man, I am a huge fan of the Coen brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I love Coen brothers films.
Yeah.
They are very meticulous in their scripts. I love the way that they write and they structure their stories. And what they also bring behind the camera as well.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, one of my favorite films, probably my top two, is Big Lebowski.
Okay.
I know that they wrote every single stutter except for the human paraquat line, and that was the only ad-lib line. But everything else was completely written out. They had such a vision and such a vision for that film that they just mapped it out perfectly.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's your favorite old film and why?
That is an excellent question. I've been really diving deep into the Criterion channel recently to basically educate myself on some of these old films. I think a lot of young directors or screenwriters think, oh man, I have this fabulous idea and it's this whole plot. Well, if you go back to the 30s, Michael Curtiz maybe already came up with something like that.
Right.
Or, yeah. And it has been redone 3 times already. So it's
Right.
not an original idea.
Yep.
Man, oh gosh, I wish I would have prepped for this question. There is, honestly, right now, Andy Griffith's first film, came out in 57.
Okay.
And I think William Wilder was maybe the director for that. Gosh, thank God you can edit this.
I'm okay with silence.
Okay with silence. Because I just wrote a piece for my graduation school materials on this film. Dang it, Major. We'll just go with an old standby then. Godfather.
Okay.
We'll just go with that one. That one, I think, is just a classic in the canon of especially 20th century film because of the richness of the story, because of the characters. Obviously, it was adapted from a book.
Mm-hmm.
So with books, you can kind of delve into what characters are thinking and feeling, and you can't do that in film for the most part.
Right.
It's a show don't tell medium. But The Godfather, just those characters are so richly developed, and you get into the family dynamics of that. And those stories really resonate with me, where you can really get into the characters.
Was it a face in the crowd? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. A face in the crowd. That really, I think, resonates right now. It is still timely. It came out in 57, I believe.
Yep, you're right.
And just the cult of personality that is structured around Lonesome, Andy Griffith's character. His ego supersedes his talents.
Nice.
And I think it's just very timely right now.
Okay.
So he parlays this. Well, he's kind of a drunken troubadour discovered and gets some minor celebrity, and that celebrity takes off, and then he wants to parlay that celebrity into politics. So
very timely.
Very.
I'm glad I looked that up.
I am too, because it was escaping me. I kind of felt like I was on the spot and froze for a minute.
That's okay. It's okay. I don't mind. Like I said, I don't mind silence, and I don't mind us just figuring stuff out. So along those lines, favorite old film and why? Favorite new film and why?
Oh gosh,
new as in this decade.
Yeah, sure. Man, I watched Knives Out recently.
Yeah.
And I love films it's a dark comedy. It's a mystery. It's all these things wrapped into one. And I think Rian Johnson did a great job with that. Yeah. I love Knives Out. It was a fun time.
It was. Yeah. My wife and I watched it a few months ago and just really enjoyed it. It's kind of a throwback to the Agatha Christie stuff, but without kind of her tropiness, so.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I really dig that stuff.
Yeah. Do you prefer comedy or tragedy? Or both?
I prefer comedy. I like to laugh a lot. I think with tragedy, going back to what I was saying about, really getting into the inner psyche of a character, you don't normally get that with comedy. So sometimes you do, but tragedy, man, I think you really have to be prepared for that. Whereas with comedy is pretty spur of the moment, and anyone can smile. I see you smiling right now.
Yeah.
So that is an easy thing to do. Yeah. To really prepare yourself for something that is hard hitting emotionally, I think is more of an investment sometimes.
Oh yeah. Well, over the course of the quarantine, my wife and we were by our caseworker for our adoption agency turned us on to the TV show This Is Us.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've watched it, but if you like to cry, it's a good show. They hit all the buttons, and my wife looks over at me and is like, "Are you crying again?" And I'm like, "Stop it," So, but yeah, it's a great show. But yeah, you have to, and there are nights where she's like, what do you want to watch? And I'm like, not This Is Us. I don't feel like crying tonight.
I get it, man. I watched, I think I stopped right before the Thanksgiving episode of the first season because it takes an emotional toll.
Yeah, it does. Man. One of the things I teach my students, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just what I see in film. And I tell them, because I have them do a comedy, and I tell them, if you can nail a comedy, you're on the right track with your timing and your writing and everything else, because it's real easy for a comic who has perfected their craft to move into drama, whereas it's different for a drama actor to move into comedy, because that comedic actor has been working so hard on their craft as far as timing and delivery and things like that. So when they go into drama, it's actually a lot easier for them most of the time. But when you see a drama actor move into comedy, sometimes it can fall flat or it just doesn't work and things like that. But so yeah, I love comedies as well.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying, because comedy is so subjective.
Mm-hmm.
And once a comedian has, whether they're stand-up or whether they're a comedic actor, they, like you said, have worked so long on that craft and honed their craft that, yeah, you can easily kind of go back and forth, because drama or tragedy, what can tug at the heartstrings.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much straightforward.
Yeah.
Someone losing a dear pet. Yes, you're going to cry,
Yep.
Marley and Me, for Pete's sake, right? But comedy is so subjective. And you take someone like Steve Carell, modern day right now,
Yep.
He has parlayed his career as a comedic writer into some really fascinating drama.
Mm-hmm.
Foxcatcher was a great one.
Yeah.
There's one coming out with Jon Stewart. That's drama. Bill Murray did that. I remember that The Razor's Edge, I think, was the first drama film that he did. So coming from Saturday Night Live and Caddyshack and all the comedic turns, I remember there was a big to-do about him. Can he pull this off? But you see that all the time with comedic actors being able to navigate those waters. But it is harder for an actor that has focused their career on being more of a dramatist, if you will, and trying to get into the comedic part, because that's hard.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's hard to watch them stumble.
Yeah. As a filmmaker, what are some of your favorite camera angles? Like wide angle, close up? Obviously, we use them all, but do you have a set of tools?
I love one takes.
Ooh, me too.
I just watched a film over the weekend called The Sisters Brothers, starring John C. Reilly.
I haven't seen it yet.
Go
ahead.
Man, yeah, it's a fabulous film, 2018, French director. It's a Western.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the Sisters Brothers are Joaquin Phoenix and John C. Reilly.
Mm-hmm.
And we follow their arc as bounty hunters. And at the end of it is a fabulous one take that is extremely well choreographed, that goes from room to room, and the characters, the actors are changing clothes off scene because they go from a kitchen to in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's fabulous. Kidding, the Jim Carrey series on Showtime did a fabulous one take with a whole lot of choreography involved in that. I love those because they just keep you moving throughout the universe, if you will,
right?
That created.
Yeah, I show that to my students, that whole the Jim Carrey one, Kidding.
Yeah.
And because you can find the video, the YouTube video of the take and everything that's going on behind the scenes to make that take happen.
Yeah.
And I have my students do a one take, and some of them pull it off really well. So
great. That's great that you're introducing them to that.
Have you filmed one takes?
Tried to do it recently for a senior thesis.
Okay.
And we did it in production. It didn't work out so well in the edit, so we ended up splitting it up.
Sure. And that's what sometimes has to happen.
Yeah.
The James Bond, the opening to, I don't know if it was the last one or the one before, I forget, where it's the Day of the Dead festival. You know, it's technically, it's all one take, supposedly, but you can see where they cut it when they walk into the building. There's a creative way that they cut it.
Visible cut,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah. And, but yeah, that whole opening scene is all really nicely done, one take. So yeah.
Boogie Nights had a really great one as well.
Yeah.
I
don't remember that. That's been 100 years ago since I've seen that. So when you're shooting, do you shoot for the edit, or do you allow actors to kind of improv?
Yes.
Good answer.
You know, as you're putting it together, you know, I read David Mamet's book on directing film, and he stresses the importance of the transitions. So as you are writing and developing your scenes, you're also kind of figuring out, as the writer, how is this going to look in the final edit? As the director, so it's now been passed on to you from the writer.
Right.
You have to figure out, well, how's this going to look in the edit? So you're working with your DP. What is our final product going to look like? That is, I think that work on the front end creates less work on the back end in post.
Right.
But at the same time, I think that you should also be open to that collaboration, you know, with the actor, with the DP, right?
Right.
Okay, so we have figured this out. This is how it's going to look in the edit. Let's shoot this. Well, boom, your actor kind of riffs on something that is something you never thought of and works out great.
Yeah.
So I think you have to be open-minded. You have to have a roadmap of where you're going, which is the final edit. But at the same time, once you have that roadmap, then you know where you can veer off, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
You know where the side roads are going.
Yeah.
And they will eventually lead you back to your end goal, your destination.
Yeah.
Which is Final Cut.
Yeah. Great answer. What's the most rewarding thing about filmmaking?
Honestly, it's the people. To me, it's the relationships that you build with your collaborators, whether those collaborators are your DP or your writer or the PA that just you met 2 days ago. You know, it's the relationships that you can build and the ideas that you can get from those relationships that I think if you build upon those, it just enriches your life, which can enrich your creativity as well.
Yeah, it's a great community of people.
It is.
Yeah.
And there's so many different viewpoints and ideas that you can glean from. For example, you know, when you're in production, you can have 200 people on set or more, right? All the different pieces and parts that go into making a film. And it's the relationships and how you deal with people and how you communicate with people that really brings everything together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. If you, I'm still trying to figure this out as a teacher, but if you weren't, if you weren't a filmmaker, what would you want to do?
Chef.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. A bit of a foodie in you?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love to make people happy, I
Yeah.
guess, for lack of a better term, man. I mean, I think you can really get creative with food.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, it's the recipes and the ingredients and the flavors all come together, and then the plating of it, and to see the look on people's faces when you deliver your
Uh-huh.
final product to them, you
Right.
know. Um, that being said, I would not want to spend 12 to 16 hours a day in a kitchen, but it's that process of creating something that I love. You know, I got that from my mom and my grandmother.
Um, did they come from some sort of culinary background, like Italian or French, or just?
Southern
Oh, nice.
biscuits and fried chicken, great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Um, by the way, I also have questions coming in from friends, so not to put you on the spot. Um, what's the one piece of filmmaking equipment you should not skimp on price?
Audio.
Exactly.
It's true, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I've told younger people because they sometimes get lost and caught up in what kind of camera should I get?
Yep.
I want to buy a piece of gear. Well, you know, man, in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, that camera can be obsolete.
Yep.
You know, I always tell people to purchase audio or lighting
Mm-hmm.
because those things are going to last. They were going to last you for a very long time. And if you can get away with visuals that maybe aren't the best, but if you have poor audio, people are going to notice.
And lighting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's what I tell my students. Those are the two things that you can control as a filmmaker. If you're outside, you can't control the light. And also, if you're outside, you can't necessarily control the audio,
Right.
unless you've got lavs and reflectors and all that to some degree. But if a cloud rolls in, or the rain comes, or the airplane or the truck goes by, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there was another one. Let's see. I love it when my phone won't let me in with my own fingerprint. My fingerprints are changing with age. What's the most difficult thing about filmmaking?
The same thing that's the most enriching.
The people.
Yeah. I mean, it can be. Honestly, yeah. Because I think as a director or a producer, showrunner, if you're, in television, you have to learn how to deal with multiple types of personalities. Um, for example, I was a showrunner a year or so ago for some student productions.
Okay.
So I had a crew of over 40 people that I had to deal or learn how to navigate the waters of 40 different personalities, right?
Yeah.
So once you're into the business aspect of it, you have to figure out how there's a political game. How can you play that political game of selling yourself, selling your story, selling all of that to executives, people that can say, yes, we want this. So how can you navigate? How can you read the room? How can you navigate those personalities of that?
Mm.
So I think filmmaking is yes, it's a creative business, but it's also a people business. So you have to learn how to, I, what is the word I'm looking for? It's people business. So you want to make sure that you don't break the first rule of filmmaking, which, can I cuss on this?
Sure.
The first rule is don't be an asshole.
Mm.
So as long as you abide by that, I think you should be okay.
Yeah.
But if you don't, then you're not going to work for very long, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah. Treat people with kindness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, you could be an extremely talented cinematographer, but if if you're someone that people don't want to work with, you're not going to last very long.
Yeah.
There went Titus. There went my dog.
I think mine's still asleep. Cute. Yeah, that's good advice. Which will lead me into one of my other questions is what encouragement or advice would you give like young filmmakers starting out in the industry?
I would say pursue whichever direction you want to be, or position that you want to be, whether that is a director or whether that is a producer or a cinematographer or, an audio person. Go for that, but also learn a backup skill because there are going to be lulls. If you want to be a screenwriter, more than likely you're not going to sell your first screenplay right off the bat.
Right.
You're going to need something to pay the bills.
Right.
So learn audio. Everyone needs an audio person, right? A good audio person. If you want to be a PA, man, they actually have PA schools. Go to a PA school. Learn how to deal with other departments within a film set. Learn what the lingo is. Learn which tools you're going to need when you're on the job. If you want to, like I said, if you're a screenwriter, learn editing because you can be a junior editor somewhere. You're going to need to bring in some cash. And also by learning another skill, you're also broadening your reach and your network. So, for example, Joel Schumacher, who just passed away, he was a production designer, but he ended up directing for 30 years. But he came from a production design background. It's who you meet, who you can network with, right? And that's a skill in itself. Learn to network.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe that's actually the most important thing. Learn to network.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, a lot of times, I just recently had this conversation with a friend of mine. We were just talking about job hunting and things like that. And neither of us are looking, but we were just talking about it. And he said he's never gotten a job from like Indeed or anything like that. It's always been through a connection or someone he knew. And I think it's the same way in the film industry that, it's a lot of times who you know and how you've treated people or how you've networked with people and those reputations, like you were saying, precede you, and they'll know whether or not people want to work with you or not work with you and stuff like that. So yeah, that's good advice.
Skills could be learned. You can't unlearn to be a jerk, I guess.
I always believe that there's hope for people. that's the eternal optimist in me. Hopefully people can unlearn to be a jerk, but you're right. It's that's harder than learning a skill. Yeah,
it really is. I mean, like I said, this is a relationship business.
Yeah.
Don't burn bridges.
Yeah. That's a great point. What's the strangest situation that you've found inspiration from?
Oh, wow.
And maybe you haven't had a strange, I don't know, but yeah.
Man, I think that's a tricky question. It depends on what a strange situation is, because you can find inspiration from anywhere, right? I mean, my neighbor just got a ticket because she didn't move her car because it's street sweeping day. There could be inspiration on the street sweeper. right? What is his job like?
Right.
I want to follow him around.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Inspiration can come from the just most day-to-day mundane things. Um, I don't know that I've had inspiration for, yes, I did. I take that back. I had a roommate one time who got arrested,
Okay.
and it was in the middle of a party, and so the cops came, broke up the party, and he is the only one that is being mouthy with the cops. So he is the one that got arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And he just, my God, if I could just, oh, Gatchel. So this guy was a Cleveland Browns fan. He's always been an underdog, and he was mouthy with the cops, and they won. But he got his first visit into the Glendale, Colorado jail.
Mm-hmm.
His first of, I think, 3. But yeah, it was the middle of a party, man. It got broken up, and my buddy just got mouthy and got arrested. And I know that's a horrible story, but just the words that he was saying, I don't want to repeat on your podcast.
That's fine.
Yeah. But like I said, inspiration can come from the most mundane, or it can come from the silliest too.
So, yeah. So did that inspire a short film or an idea or?
It inspired a short script.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think you've kind of hit on one of my other questions is going to be like, where do you derive your inspiration from? And, yeah.
I think that's it is you don't know where you can find inspiration finds you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't go out looking for inspiration.
Right.
So when it hits, I think you need to stop and take a minute, realize what's going on. Words come to your mouth or come to your mind, man, stop, write them down. Get that out there so that when you can come back to it later.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to sit there. It's fleeting, man.
Mm-hmm.
So notate it while it's there.
Yeah.
Recognize it.
Yeah. Good stuff. Do you keep a spreadsheet, a journal of ideas, a book of ideas? Do you write them down and come back to them later?
Yes, I do. I have a journal that I keep next to my bed.
Mm-hmm.
I also have here on my laptop, on my notes, I have special section just for ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and I will come back to those.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I do too. Do you? So I was part of it was in Nashville. It was a filmmakers workshop or something. One time I went to, and anyway, one of the things someone asked me one time, what do you like to write or write about or whatever? And I said, well, I don't typically write about what I like to watch or something like that. So I guess my question would be, do you watch the same genre that you like to write about?
Yes, because I think it's important to, just like songwriters, go listen to other artists that are playing the same genre that you like,
Mm-hmm.
right? Gain inspiration, see what other people are doing,
Mm-hmm.
and also step outside of that.
Yeah.
Different things that interest you, step outside of that, and you can gain inspiration from architecture, from poetry, from chefs.
Yeah.
What does this plate look like? Well, start describing that plate, and then that could trigger something else, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that absolutely you need to watch what other people are doing, what the other people are creating, and pull from that. Don't be afraid to pull from that. It's been done for millennia, right?
Yeah.
It's called inspiration.
Yeah. Well, that's a good place for us to pause and take a quick break from one of our sponsors, and so we'll be right back with Todd Smith, Filmmaker. Welcome back to the Creative Liberty Podcast. I'm here with Mr. Todd Smith, filmmaker. Welcome back. And we're just talking about education.
Well, I think what you had brought up was, people that are interested in, for example, in filmmaking, feel that maybe because of their age could be a detriment to that. It's something they've always wanted to pursue, but maybe feel they're too old. And I completely disagree with that.
Yeah.
I was 40, maybe 41 when I went back to school. I just had a need and a desire to accomplish something, essentially. Mm-hmm. And that accomplishment was finishing out a bachelor's degree. And the life experience that I had and the maturity that I had at that point in my life, I think allowed me to do that. Obviously I didn't do it when I was 20, 21, whatever, for whatever reason. But coming back at my age, that time, I think made me a better student. I think it helped lend some credibility amongst my classmates who are my kids' age.
Right.
And even with my professors. And I think that age should not be a detriment to continuing your education. If it's something that you as a full-grown adult want to do it, man. It can only help you. It'll help not only, I believe, your job prospects personally. I believe that. But I believe that if it's something that you want to do that you feel is missing in your life, it can only help your self-confidence and help your self-worth. How you perceive yourself.
Right.
So I champion any adult that wants to do it, man. Go back to school and fulfill your dreams.
Yeah.
Pursue what you want to pursue. It's your life, right?
Right.
I did it after my daughter graduated high school. So she and I were going to college at the same time, right? May sound a little weird, but I think that being around more students my daughter's age helped me to connect with her on a different level. So it's not only helping my professional life and my personal life, meaning my internal, but also helping with how I can relate to my child, my adult child at this point. Yeah. So go back to school if that's what you really want to do. Don't let the "you're too old" adage, don't let that be a detriment. Pursue it, do it, embrace it.
Amen. Yeah, I agree.
That's all I really had to add on that one, man.
I love it.
So, yeah, man, I'm a champion for anybody that wants to go back to school. Do it.
Yeah, my mom went back to school for nursing when we were kids, and she had always wanted to be a nurse and just never pursued it, and she finally did, and she became a nurse. She became a head nurse over 2 floors. Yeah. And then, upon retirement, moved into like the insurance section of it and then retired. So, yeah, she didn't regret it one bit.
No, I mean, yeah, I'm going to have student debt. I get that. But I think the pros outweigh the cons.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think I can now approach life with so much more confidence. I felt that lack of a degree was really holding me back, and I was not pursuing my passions the way that I wanted to. So I was kind of taking jobs that just paid the bills, maybe. And I eventually got tired of that and just wanted to make the most of the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I encourage my students to take a year off after high school. I think time away from all that, perspective, maturity, really, really helps. And so, and like you said, coming back into it later, whether it's at 41 or even at 23 or 25, once they've been out in the world working, it does bring a bit more maturity to the professors that you're serious about this. Like, I'm not in the class as a typical college student. You know, you're really wanting to learn. And so
I'm not here to appease my parents.
exactly.
I have a goal in mind, and I'm going to dedicate myself to it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I would have had that dedication, you know, younger me would not have had that dedication.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Do you like using green screens? Do you use them much?
I've used them a couple of times in corporate settings.
Yeah.
They have their place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as a filmmaker, I'm not so big on them.
Yeah.
They're ubiquitous at this point. They're everywhere.
Right.
Even in the most character-driven drama that you can find, there's going to be some green screen involved.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have special effects, and I'm not a big fan of it. I like to have the realism, but they're everywhere.
Yeah. Have you ever filmed overseas, outside of the United States?
I have not yet.
Yeah. Do you like documentaries?
I do. I love documentaries.
Yeah.
Just did one for a senior thesis, actually.
Oh, you said you did one?
Yes.
What was it?
It's a short doc on industrial hemp.
Okay.
And I didn't. Go ahead.
Well, the things that ropes and stuff are made of, right?
Yes, but there are so many other products that can be derived from industrial hemp, and it has a really great carbon footprint as well. You can make clothing from it. You can make cosmetics from it. It hasn't really seeped into the energy producing world just yet, but there are some things that you can do with it where it can start to replace petroleum products.
Wow.
Plastics to begin with. But there are so many things that you can do with hemp.
Yeah. Former colleague of mine who's retired, a teacher, he has opened an industrial hemp field lot thing, and it takes a few years for it all to grow, but on the development sign on the corner where it's located, it says this is not, they had to put the disclaimer, this is not marijuana, you can't get high, on the disclaimer, so people wouldn't be like sneaking out in the field and getting the hemp. So
right, yeah, I mean, if you try and smoke it, all you're going to get is a headache out of it.
Yeah,
but to your question, let me back up. You're asking if I had filmed outside of the country. I have not personally, but my producing partner in this project did. He actually he took a class in Amsterdam and numerous interviews there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
If there was one film that you could make, it's your coup d'etat, what would it be?
Are you asking if it's one that's already been done that I wish I would have made, or?
No. Do you have an idea in the back of your mind, like, if before I pass away, I want to make this film?
I actually have a series that I would like to really bring to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't have to, don't give away your trade secrets or your ideas if you don't want to.
Yeah, I think that it's based on a true story.
Okay.
And I think that the breadth of it needs to really be opened up into something that is more episodic and can't be confined to a 2-hour film.
Gotcha. Yeah. Nice. I'll be looking forward to it.
All right. I'll bring it to the screen one day.
What? So you said you have a YouTube channel.
Yes, and I have posted some short films there.
Okay.
Over the years.
Okay, and it's okay for me to include that in the show notes and everything, link to that.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. I think. Let me see. What's You said Knives Out is, we haven't been able to go to the theaters. I was going to ask you like what, yeah. What have you been binge watching during the coronavirus?
Oh man, like I said, I've been kind of digging deep into the Criterion channel, that app. Binging, we've watched, gosh, Mrs. America, Succession. Succession's a great show
Okay.
on HBO. Man, I've watched so many shows now that I they kind of get all lost and jumbled up in there. I just started watching Legion yesterday for the first time.
I've heard good
Uh,
things.
yeah, it's interesting so far. I'm excited to kind of dig a little bit deeper into it.
When you sit down to write, is there a process like the house has to be quiet? Do you go away? Do you go to a coffee shop? What does that look like?
Yes,
Okay.
all of that. Yeah, I prefer to be in a quiet environment. And when I start to write, yes, I may jot down some ideas, but then I'll start to kind of outline a little bit. And I've had people ask me before about they'll start a script, just boom, here are some characters and here's some dialogue on a page. Where do you think this should go? And I can never answer that question for them. Like I said, I like to outline first.
Right.
And that goes back to creating basically an itinerary, if you will. It's just like a travel itinerary or a roadmap where I know where I want to go with this, but that leaves me room to break off and go somewhere different. I don't like the direction this is going, but I know where I want to go. So I like to be in a quiet environment, and I will start to outline. I will start to maybe detail the characters first. Here's Nancy, and Nancy now has a background that I'm starting to develop. Nancy had a very troubled childhood. Nancy is married with 3 kids. I can start to really write in Nancy's voice, hopefully, if I know Nancy's background and know more about her.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's the same for me. I prefer it to be quiet. Whether that's, like with headphones on and listening to music and diving into it, or just kind of silence. But, when I lived in Nashville, I had a townhome, and I would go to coffee shops. But as you know, in Nashville, coffee shops are just really places to go and meet people and be seen and, say hi to everybody and drink coffee, and get some work done if you can. But I found that it was just too distracting. And so I created my guest room in my townhome. I created as like my creative zone, my creative space where I could go and just sit and read and write and do stuff. So, yeah. So I have to have that creative space and also have to have that creative mindset. Sometimes it's a love-hate relationship with me. So,
yeah, absolutely. I understand. Like if I listen to music, it has to be instrumental. I'll either put on classical or jazz. I cannot have lyrics going on because that distracts me. That gets me off on something else.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I've got just some random quick fire questions for you.
Okay.
All right. Coffee or soda?
Coffee.
Beer or whiskey?
Beer.
Chocolate?
Dark. Not a fan of milk chocolate.
Yeah, me neither anymore. I love dark chocolate. Pizza or burgers?
Burgers. Yeah.
Burgers cooked on a grill. You could strand me on an island, and as long as I had burgers cooked on the grill for the rest of my life, I'd be fine.
I am a fan. I'm a fan of the of a flat top burger. There's just something about years of grease.
Yeah.
You find a good diner burger, man. I am all about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This has been a couple of years now. I didn't want a grill in my backyard. I just wanted I looked at, people's grills online, like they're selling them on Craigslist and stuff. And I'm like, that looks gross. And I didn't want this piece of equipment in my backyard rusting out and getting gross looking, So I have a Blackstone griddle, and so it's a flat top. So maybe look this up. This is not sponsored by Blackstone, but I love my Blackstone. It's like a little 22-inch, uses propane, and it's a griddle top, and I love it. So I can make those smash burgers, and
I have to check that out.
Yeah, do it. It's really nice.
I've been using a charcoal grill for way too long now, and I love the flavor of charcoal. But man, it's a process.
It is, right?
Yeah. I think the older I've become, the more I've seen the value of propane.
Propane and propane accessories.
Propane accessories. Dang it, Bobby.
So you have some wonderful new things going on right now in your life. Yeah. You guys are, well, I'm not going to tell your story. You tell me your story. What's going on?
So I applied on a whim to grad school. I wanted to focus on producing, and I applied to one school and was accepted. We wanted to get, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yay.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think I have a sound effect for that. That's not it. Nope. There we go. Go ahead.
We wanted to get back east. That's where my in-laws are, and my mom is, and they're getting older. So we wanted to be closer to them. Mm-hmm. And my wife threw out the idea, well, why don't you apply to grad school? And I had never even thought about it.
Wow.
And I thank her for giving me that idea and planting that seed.
Yeah.
And I applied to one school in North Carolina. They have a really great, I think it's actually ranked the number 6 producing graduate program in the country. So I was put on the waiting list, and then about a week later, I was off the waiting list and was accepted.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
That's awesome. And how long is the program?
2 years.
Okay. And I'm asking questions I know the answer to, but just for my audience sake. So this is how you do a podcast, people. You do your research. You have conversations with Mr. Smith. Upon graduating from this school, you'll have what?
A lot of debt.
Touche. You'll come out of the program with what?
Come out of the program with 3 projects that are ready to pitch.
Right.
They are fully formed projects that I can walk into a meeting and have them ready to go. Here's my pitch. Here's my pitch deck. Here is the long term that we're looking at this. So hopefully, the project that you asked about earlier, my opus, if you will, hopefully that'll be fully formed and ready to pitch, and I could be a showrunner on that. But I mean, that all being said, I think the experience of working directly with screenwriters and helping to form projects, whether it's projects they want to bring to life or it's projects I want to bring to life or whatever it may be, that experience and that knowledge that I am about to gain, I hope, right, is going to be invaluable. Yeah. And I will have a leg up on anyone else that wants to pursue this but hasn't, that really kind of wants to do it the hard way, I guess, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. So that's really what I'm looking forward to is developing scripts, collaborating with screenwriters, and having something ready to go when I finish up.
Yeah. And you say 3 finished things. You don't mean those things will already be filmed, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
They're fully developed.
Gotcha.
At least in my mind and in my heart, they are fully developed.
Right.
Like I said, if it's a series, we're going to have at least 5 episodes ready to go in the can.
Right.
Those are so that you can have something to present. There will probably be a proof of concept that will be filmed for it. So yeah. So it's not going to be like a full series that's going to be filmed or a full feature-length film that's going to be filmed. It's just going to be the front end, the development, what it's going to look like, what these characters have to say. It's your whole pitch deck.
Gotcha. Talk a little bit about the pitch deck for our audience. What does that look like? What's a pitch? What's a pitch deck?
Well, the pitch is as much about you as it is your project. So come into a pitch with your fully formed ideas. These are the characters. This is the story arc. This is what the world looks like. These are what the characters are wearing. This is, your inspirations that you're also, if you can tie in your project with something else that maybe already exists so that the people in the room can visualize it, right? This is going to be Superman meets Jaws. Okay, we've got Sharknado or whatever that is, right? So that you can kind of assimilate it to something else. So you come in well prepared, very confident, and saying, this is the world that I've created. These are the characters that live in this world. This is what it's going to look like. What do you think?
Let's fund it.
Let's fund it. Yeah. Let's make this happen. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have any desire to pursue Hollywood? Or to live in LA or?
No.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, unless there are specific positions that you want, you have other hubs now. Atlanta. Yeah. Atlanta, absolutely. There's a lot of stuff going on in New Orleans. I think, for example, Plan B, which is Brad Pitt's production company, I think they are actually headquartered in New Orleans.
Okay.
I could be mistaken. Don't quote me on that. New Mexico. Netflix has just built studios in Albuquerque.
Oh, okay.
So depending on exactly, what you as a filmmaker want to do, I don't think you necessarily have to go to LA unless there are specific things that you want to do.
Yeah, and I love that. That's becoming more the case now, is that you don't have to go to LA. Canada has some great filmmaking stuff going on up there.
Toronto, yeah, absolutely.
Where do you see films going now in light of COVID? Great question.
Honestly, I think you're going to see a whole lot of animation coming out of this.
Really?
Yeah, because animation is something that you don't necessarily need to be doing on set. You don't need to have a crew of 200 people in the same room to make it happen. Yeah. You have your script. Right now, you'll have your animation artists that can be doing stuff from home and collaborating that way. I think you're going to see a lot of animation coming out of this.
Okay. What do you think the future of filmmaking is, as far as the next 10, 20 years? What do you think we'll see?
You're going to see a lot more visual effects taking place. You can create your own environments at this point, where you don't need to go to New Zealand and film something right that looks exotic or looks like it's otherworldly. You can create that in a computer. I think you're going to see a whole lot more of that, which to me is great, because it's great and it's bad. It's a double-edged sword. Right. There's a whole lot of processing power that is used for that. So one person can, or a team of 5 people working remotely can create these environments. Right. That's awesome. You've really streamlined the process. At the same time, you have taken away the reality of things. You have put people out of jobs.
Mhm.
You know, you've taken away a lot of the natural feeling, you know, of what a film brings.
Mm.
So to me, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. Let's talk for a minute about deep fakes. I'm sure you've seen these deep fakes where you can take, you know, Tom Cruise's face and put it on Arnold Schwarzenegger's body or whatever. There's part of me that's concerned just for say, like, you know, if you wanted to take an actor who's no longer living and bring them back into something. But then there's part, you know, I don't know that I agree with that. I mean, unless their relatives okayed it. But I would love to see a movie where someone took 2 or 3 actors or actresses and did a single film with just 2 or 3 actors or actresses and deep fake their faces to make them different people. So you had the bodies acting and the mouths moving, but it's a completely made up face, not another actor's face, you know, not putting someone to, because now with the deep fakes, they can just make up a face, right?
Right.
How do you see that playing in filmmaking?
Creepily, if that's a word. That is creepy, man. I will not poo-poo that idea. I'm sure that people will do that. You know, I mean, you're going to have, right. I mean, we have Tupac holograms on stage, or did before the world shut down. But,
Yeah.
there is a whole area of study that has actually risen around deepfakes. Here in Denver, there's the National Center for Media Forensics, right? And they teach you how to spot deepfakes. You know, you're using Premiere, you're using Audition, whatever, to analyze this stuff. So you can also create the deepfakes with those too, right? So you can do a whole lot of stuff with it, man, that I think is just creepy. Making a film with it is fine. That's one thing. But when you're starting to manipulate journalism and other things, I think you've really crossed a line.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And it was kind of going back to what you were saying about the future of filmmaking and being able to create stuff and put people out of jobs and all that. It's just one of the things that came to mind is just kind of that whole deep fake technology. And so the things that AI is going to be capable of doing, you know, in the future or in the present.
In the present, I mean, you have how many devices around our house right now are listening? You know, I mean, we have Alexa, who probably just turned on, right? There's the Google.
Yeah.
There's, you know, whatever you have Siri.
Yeah.
All this stuff is here. It's how is it going to be used? Is it going to be used responsibly? Is it just going to be used to track us?
Yeah.
Our movements and our thoughts.
Yeah. Interesting times. You mentioned Premiere. Are you a Premiere guy, a Final Cut, iMovie?
Premiere. I think you're finding probably a lot of people that are using Premiere because it's just so integrated right now with Audition and After Effects, Photoshop.
Yeah.
I left Final Cut right around 7, I think.
Okay.
So it's been a while since I've jumped into that world.
Yeah.
Avid is still used in the professional environments.
I was wondering, yeah. My first introduction to filmmaking stuff, Darren Thomas, shout out to him. He was a big Avid guy. I think he probably still is, but yeah.
Yeah, it's still definitely used.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Comments, snide remarks?
Oh, I have snide remarks for days.
Finally, someone takes me up on it.
No, I actually really I appreciate you having me on, man. This has been a pleasure. You know, I have to say, well, two things. One, what all platforms are you on?
What platforms am I on?
Uh-huh.
Oh, you mean for the podcast?
Yes.
Sorry. I was thinking social media. Um, all of them.
Yeah.
Spotify, uh, iTunes, Apple Podcasts. Um, those are the big ones. I think I'm on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, maybe. I could look it up.
You're on a whole lot of them. What do your students think about films and filmmaking right now? Where do they see where it stands and where it's going?
Uh, that'd be a great question. I wish I could have finished the semester with them to do this. I typically have some students who could care less. You're always going to have those in class. But those that do care really kind of bring their A game. And they love film, they love storytelling, things like that. We're really confined. So like in like my video 2 and 3 classes, I usually get, the parents to sign off on it. And if it's during a period in a period where they can leave campus and go film, I'm totally fine with that. Their parents have signed off on it. They're old enough to drive and have people in their car. So that's kind of one of the stipulations. They can't be a young driver. Then they can go film off campus, or they can check gear out and film over the weekends or at night. Because at the school, there's only so many hallways and classrooms you can film in where everything starts looking the same, right? And even though we do have a green screen, they can film in that. I force them to do at least one film using the green screen, just somewhere in the film. But I don't know. That's a great question as far as, because I can kind of look at what they're interested in and kind of gauge what they're viewing as far as films go and kind of what they're into, and to kind of see kind of in the future, like where their mindset is. Like, it's kind of like when people go in to do translations for other countries and stuff, or to learn the language, they usually follow the children around because the children are speaking like the most current language, the dialect or the lingo. And so I can kind of get a pretty good feel on where their, I guess, values or their comedic relief kind of is coming from to some degree. It comes across in their films, and we talk about kind of their films. So I don't know, as far as projecting where they see film going. I would assume, even as they mature, they really get into like the longer films and stuff. But I would assume that a lot of them are geared more towards a YouTube type of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Because that's just kind of where everything is. I usually take a poll and ask them how many of you are on Facebook, how many are on Instagram, and kind of gauge where they are on the social media platforms and where they're getting their information or their content from, and what makes them laugh. That's just, I'll see them laughing in class, and they're not supposed to have their phones out, but being a filmmaker and a photography teacher, I allow them, for work to use their phones. And I'll ask them, show me what you're laughing at, and they'll show me. But what I struggle with is them. I try to get them to tell good stories, and by a good story, I don't mean, rainbows and unicorns. I mean, tell a good story. A good story has that, conflict in it and things like that. And the struggle I find with them is that they want to make these kind of adult-like films, but using high school students. And by adult, I don't mean anything bad. I just mean, they're using teenagers to play detectives and police officers and these kind of adult roles that the script may look good and sound great and be fine, but they don't have the resources to portray. They can't go out and hire older actors or actresses, so they use themselves. And I'm like, yeah, this is fine and all, but it's not going to play well because you guys are 14. You don't have a beard or a mustache, or you're not in these realistic situations. And they write some really good stuff, and they write some really fun stuff, but sometimes I really have to reel them back in and go, let's make a teenage film. Let's if you're gonna do this, then do it this way. But sometimes they listen to me and sometimes they don't, and that's fine. I don't mind promoting them playing adults. That's just like theater. But I also try to instill in them that, you know, as you move forward, like this would be a great film in 10 years. You know, I'd love to see you in this in 10 years when your peach fuzz is actually a mustache.
Yeah. Do you introduce them to a hero's journey?
Yeah.
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 That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. We talk about that. I mean, I have them. One of the things I like to do, it's sort of like the 48-hour film festival, is that we choose a genre, we choose a character, we choose a prop, a line of dialogue, you know, and I usually have them interject, like, give me a line of dialogue, and usually go with the funniest one, you know. And then we talk about story arcs and all that stuff, the hero's journey and all that along the way as they're writing. So they have to submit their script to me for review before they can start filming. So
cool.
Yeah.
I bet, and you can maybe cut this out. I bet. So you taught in Fort Collins, correct?
I've always taught in Loveland for the most part. Yeah.
Right. I've had a couple students that I was in school with here at UCD are from Fort Collins, and
Okay.
very talented.
Yeah. I've had students go on and get scholarships for film schools. I've got one student down in Denver going to film school, and others that are just making films on their own, just diving in and going for it while they do whatever other job they have.
You know, one of the reasons that I wanted to enroll in college, one, I wanted to finish out my degree. I just didn't have that.
Sure.
I wanted to have that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to expose myself to the younger generation, meaning I wanted to find out what they knew, you know, and how I could actually learn from them.
Right.
Because I think if you get to a point that you just kind of become stagnant, you know, and I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to completely have an open mind, figure out what they know, what I can learn from them, and hopefully apply that, you know, later on in my career.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I think as an adult, you kind of get into your own routine and maybe your own bubble with the people that you're around and that you associate with. So I wanted to break out of that bubble. And, you know, my daughter's almost 22, but I don't know her friends. I know her. I interact with her. But I think that, you know, the students that I were with are all her age as well. And they have some really great ideas. And I think as a filmmaker, especially, you have to stay fresh.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and I will probably always teach or do something, but if I weren't teaching, like, I don't see myself being 65 and teaching video production and photography and stuff, because one, I mean, I think it'd be kind of cool to be the cool old, you know, video teacher, but do I want to try to keep up with everything that's going on in filmmaking at that point, you know? So, so I might move into something else later, but I love it. It's fun. I get to go be around creative kids all day and hear their stories and bring those stories to life when they write them out and direct them and film them. So, yeah.
I actually would. That's something I've thought about recently. You know, going to grad school, I'll end up with an MFA, which, you know, will give me that flexibility to teach if I wanted to. And I wouldn't mind finishing out my career, because I've had a couple of great mentors here at UC Denver that, you know, that are older professors. You know, Jim Phelan is one, and he's in his 70s, but he's been teaching for 10 years, and that guy is just a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah. I could move on to the collegiate level. I believe that would be fun.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. I'd like to give, you know, my all for the next 20 20 or so years in
Yeah.
the industry,
Right.
and then finish it out teaching. And I had someone recently, actually, he was the chair of the department. He's like, teaching is a great way to get your films made, because you have to. That's part of your condition of employment, is you have to continue your research. If you're in film, you have to continue making films. You have to do something.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I started my YouTube channel. Because this group of kids that I had were super talented, and they were watching Casey Neistat's videos and stuff. And I was like, well, you guys should do this. Like I could do this. And so I got on there, and just for my students, it was just making goofy YouTube videos. And it's like, look, here's, let's apply this concept. How do you clone yourself? And so I would go in and do some of those things that Casey and some others were doing, and showing my students how to do that. Because they were watching them for entertainment. But I was like, but you can also, this plays well in filmmaking as well, if you want to, do that. So that's really the only reason I started my YouTube channel, is because, well, though I'm teaching filmmaking, I want my students to know that I'm also doing filmmaking as well. And it was an easy way for me to do that without getting a production crew and all that stuff. So, yeah.
And you're keeping them engaged.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Which is great. It's you're teaching the next generation of filmmakers, and
I know. It's scary.
What but what is film going to look like in 10, 20 years? Because right now, yes, we have blockbuster films in the theater, right? But we don't have if you have a Jaws or an E.T., from our generation, right? Or some blockbusters. Well, now you have Jaws in the Marvel universe, right? I mean, So you've created, those are your blockbusters.
Right.
Silver Linings Playbook is not going to be the next blockbuster anymore. So you have to figure out, if you have a message, if you have content that you want, that you feel comes from the heart, that people would really want to see, but you're not going to make $100 million off of it. How are you going to get that into people's living rooms? Because that's where they're going to watch it.
Right. Yeah. YouTube, or other, Vimeo or other streaming services.
Right. Vimeo is a great place. YouTube has their own, I guess, what's the word? Long form.
Sure.
Right now, Vimeo does have films on there. You obviously have your major players, your Netflix and your Hulu and your Amazon.
Right.
So as a content creator, how do you want to, I guess, get that? Yes, you want to get that into living rooms and have eyeballs on it.
Exactly.
What is the cost of that, though, as the filmmaker? Because if you sell your soul to Netflix and you see, this is a big payday, boom. Well, then now, and you sell it to Netflix, well, now they own all the rights to it. Mm-hmm. So I think you as not you, but yes, you, myself, and anyone else that is a content creator or a filmmaker, you have to balance that creative aspect with the business aspect of it.
I think you just came up with $1 billion idea right there. Create a platform that people can put their stuff on and they still retain the rights to. That gets eyeballs.
Yeah, that gets eyeballs.
In 10 or 20 years.
And I think that is actually one reason that I've kind of leaned towards episodic, whatever that episodic looks like, whether that is a narrative or whether that is some sort of a reality or discovery type show, something that would be on the Discovery Channel. I have one of my mentors here who is a producer, and he has created stuff for Discovery and National Geographic and whatnot. Well, you can contract yourself right into your contract. Yeah, I'll sell you the rights for the next year or 2 years, but after that, I get those rights back.
Right.
And so you can then take that content and you can either repackage it in a different form, different way, however that may look, and then go off and sell it again and reuse that content. Whereas with a film, that's a one-off essentially, right? You have to learn how to negotiate that contract so that you continue getting your money on the back end, or however that works. But if you sell your rights to Netflix, you've sold your rights to Netflix.
Yeah.
And all that time, effort, and money, and blood, sweat, and tears that you have put into that, that's theirs now. You don't get that back.
Yeah, that's frustrating, or it can be, or maybe some people don't care. I don't know, but
maybe some people don't care.
Yeah, as a content creator, I would want that residual. I would want. I'm torn. I'm a painter on the side. I love to paint, and so when I sell a painting, I don't care what they do with it afterwards. It would be discouraging if they sent me a video that, hey, I paid you this for your painting. Thank you very much. And I'm going to torch it. I'll be like, oh man, well, okay, but you paid me for my time and effort. I don't think that carries over into filmmaking, because that's, I don't know.
Well, I mean, think about that. I mean, your painting has been sold to an individual.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to that individual. True. Whereas you're making a film for the masses.
That's where it doesn't carry over. You're right. Yeah. I didn't make a painting and sell a million copies of that painting. I made, it'd be like making one film and having one person see it. You're right. You're right. Thank you for helping me see that.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad we could work through that together.
I appreciate it. Because as a content creator, you should get the residuals for that content that you've created, if it's going to be shown on those platforms. It's just what's fair.
I think a lot of people go into filmmaking just for the money. And yes, it can be very, very lucrative. Mm-hmm. But I think if that is your driving force, then you're kind of misguided a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's your responsibility as an artist, whether it's you as a painter or someone as a photographer or a songwriter, it's your responsibility as an artist to convey a message, mm-hmm. whatever that message may be. But I think you should make people think.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's hard maybe to get that point across if you're, watching Jackass, but there is something to be said for that, because I don't want my kid doing that stuff. Okay. So that just made me think, right?
Right.
So the message is, don't do this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And show your kids the aftermath of what happened to most of those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This has been fun.
Yeah, man. I feel honestly like a little bit more relaxed now that the actual questions have subsided and gone to the wayside. Just opening up just the conversation, I think, is just more relaxing.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously your wife is totally in support of you guys, your filmmaking endeavors and all that.
Man, my wife is phenomenal.
Yeah. I
owe so much to her. I mean, she was very supportive of me going back to school, at I guess an advanced age, maybe at an age of more experience.
There you go.
Yeah. She has been extremely supportive, and I can't be more thankful. I'm so blessed. I sit here, she works from home a lot now at this point.
Sure.
But to watch her and her dedication and how she conducts herself with integrity in meetings and the respect that she has earned from her peers, man, I'm just in complete, total awe of my wife.
Yeah. Me too. I mean, not your wife, but my wife. Yeah. I definitely married up.
So did I.
Yeah. Good for us. So as we wrap up, I'll include your YouTube channel down below. And if people want to contact you, a good email address, maybe.
Yeah, I'll send you all that, or maybe reach out on the Facebooks,
Messenger,
the face, yeah, whatever it's called. The
Book of Faces.
You asked me what my preferred working location is.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I have, and I don't know if it's because of where we are with the world kind of
Sure.
asleep and maybe trying to come out of slumber, but I find myself writing a lot in bed.
Yeah.
I mean, it could even be noon.
Yeah.
I call it the horizontal office at this point.
I like that. Yeah.
And, I'll just throw on some music and I'm in a comfort zone and it
Mhm.
just kind of relaxes my mind and lets it go where I want it to go as opposed to, going outside and hearing birds chirp, which is very relaxing. I love water. I love hearing all of that stuff. But then all of a sudden you've got, somebody going down the street with their stereo blast.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. If I want to be outside, I want to definitely hear those things. And, there's times for that, I just want to be outside and listen to the birds chirp and the guy drive by with his stereo blazing. But yeah, if I'm going to be creative or to try to get into that creative mindset, yeah, there's definitely different places.
Yeah.
Although I don't know that I could do the bed, I would probably end up falling asleep. But I come from a long line of nappers, so.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always told my daughter we come from a long line of guilt farmers.
Love it. So when do you guys head to North Carolina?
I will be hopefully settling in around the 1st of August.
Okay.
The semester starts the 17th.
Okay.
Julie, my wife, is going to be staying here for the rest of the year to finish out what she's doing at work.
Mm-hmm.
And then in January, we'll be packing up and
Gotcha.
moving to DC.
Nice. Yeah, that's exciting. I'm excited for you.
Thanks, man. It's a new chapter, right?
Yeah. I'll have to have you on in a couple of years.
Yeah.
When you wrap up, and
would love to.
Yeah, kind of tell that journey of your story.
Maybe pitch you one of my 3 finished products, right?
Yeah. I would love to hear the episodic thing you have planned.
You know what? I have maybe a proof of concept on my YouTube channel. So
okay,
yeah.
Definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Well, if you have no more snide remarks,
I don't even think I had a snide remark.
You didn't. You did not.
Good debate.
Yeah, this has been fun. And you've answered all my questions. I've checked them off on my notes here and the ones that were sent to me by some friends. And yeah, thank you. This has been fantastic.
I appreciate the opportunity. This has been great.
Yeah, and I hope our listeners, our future filmmakers out there, dial into this and really take your words of wisdom and use them. So yeah.
Thanks, man. I hope I had something to pass along.
Absolutely. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Mr. Todd Smith, filmmaker, moving on to become producer extraordinaire. Hopefully someday, next 20 years. Listen for his name. I'll actually include his YouTube channel in the show notes. But yeah, thanks again, Todd. This has been fantastic.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
This has been the Creative Liberty Podcast. I'm your host, Major Chisholm. Today we interviewed filmmaker Todd Smith.